this is the city council meeting that you'll be testifying in. And so there'll be a picture of you too when you're testifying, and that'll be it.
Live and in person and facilitating this. So we're going to get the recording started. Thank you, Ms. Moore. And we will call the Truth and Taxation Truth and Taxation hearing to order.
Yang.
Here.
Jalali.
Here.
Naker.
Here.
Prince.
Here.
Tao.
Here.
Tolbert.
Here.
Council President Brenmon.
Here.
7 present, no one absent.
All right. So this evening, we are holding our Truth and Taxation hearing. I mentioned at the end of our last meeting, this is a hearing that is required under state statutes. Gives folks an opportunity to come in and share perspective on their property taxes. I will add that over the years, we've heard from constituents that this is very late in the process for them to make changes to a budget that we've been working on since really August of this year. And so the council has really collectively tried to provide one-on-one opportunities, office hour opportunities, as well as public hearings and other surveys and other opportunities for people to weigh in early in the process so that we understand where priorities are in our community and can weave those thoughts into our budget discussions. So today is sort of the capstone on this. We are hoping to have a final budget to pass next Wednesday at 3:30. So today we will hear one last word from community members in the Truth and Taxation. And in advance of that, we will have a quick summary of the 2022 budget from our budget director, Tara Bernack, with the administration, and as well as some words from our chief budget officer, Holly Houston, with the city council. So we'll start with Tara. We'll go to Holly, and then we'll open it up. We're going to start with the folks that are in council chambers. And I think I'm going to mute somebody, Gidgey. There. I was hearing some background sounds. So we'll get started with this, and then we'll open it up to folks in the council chambers. And then following that, I believe we have a person or two who has signed up to testify over the phone. So then we'll go to that second. So with that, welcome to Truth and Taxation hearing. We'll turn things over to Ms. Bernack.
Thank you, Council President, for the opportunity to present a high-level overview of the Mayor's proposed budget for 2022. This overview will include information about city spending, property taxes, and the impact on a typical home, as well as connections to other resources on the city's budget and taxes. The 2022 proposed budget is $713.2 million, with spending in the general fund at $332.5 million. The significant change in the special funds reflects carry forward from the first payment of the American Rescue Plan funding into 2022 from 2021. On to key aspects of the 2022 budget proposal. The mayor's proposed budget focuses on restoring critical services cut during 2020 and 2021 and leveraging new opportunities. The mayor's proposed budget includes funding to restore services and staff reduced during 2020 and 2021 at $4.7 million, with $1.8 million of that funding coming from the general fund. The budget proposal also establishes the Office of Neighborhood Safety. The Law Enforcement Career Path Academy is funded in the police department, and there's additional funding for housing and economic development in the proposal, as well as $1.1 million in other smaller investments in departments across the city. Additional key aspects of the proposal: the mayor's proposed budget outlines a high-level vision for the use of the American Rescue Plan funding from the federal government. The proposal anticipates funding of $40 million to each of three priorities: neighborhood safety, housing strategies, and works progress. The proposed capital budget funds three major projects over the next 2 years. the Hamlin Midway Library, the North End Community Center, and Fire Station 7. Reductions for several departments are included in the budget for a little less than $400,000. And the American Rescue Plan funding is also used for budget stabilization in the general fund. The revenue picture in the general fund sees a $12.2 million increase in 2022. That is due to the maximum property tax levy increase as proposed by the mayor. That levy increase is proposed at 6.9% over 2021. The revenue received from the levy increase is about $10.4 million, which equates to an increase of $11.25 per month for a median value home. All of the revenue estimates in the budget are conservative, considering the continued impact we're seeing on our revenues from the pandemic, especially on hotel taxes and in parking. The revenue budget in the general fund specifically reflects reductions related to some one-time revenue sources that we used in 2021 that are no longer available for the city to use. So there's a reduction. And then there are also reductions related to in the estimates for hotel taxes and franchise fees. The proposed budget includes revenue increases presented by the fire department and the safety inspections department. Local government aid is anticipated to increase modestly in 2022. In terms of how the property tax levy is distributed across the city's funds, this next slide shows this detail for the funds under the City Council's control. The increases are distributed to the general fund, debt service fund, and the library agency. The proposal includes an increase for the Port Authority's property tax as well. In addition, there are taking that levy increase and applying it to the median value home is what this next slide shows. The median value home actually increased from about $216,000 in 2021 to $229,000 in 2022. The property tax bill for that home will increase by $135 for the entire year in the proposed budget. Additional direct billings by the city for street maintenance, sanitary and storm sewers, recycling and residential waste collection result in an increase of about $16. Water charges from St. Paul Regional Water Services increase about $20 for the year, and then the total increase for all of these billings is $171 for the year.
Ms. Bernack, before you move on, I do want to say, and I think that, it pops into our conversation here and there, but this week, in the past few weeks, as people saw their property tax records, I know a lot of folks were like, the city raised my taxes, 20% or use different percentages. And the first question I asked was, did your home value increase? And when people looked at their home value, someone's home value increased over $100,000. And so really this is a typical home, but it doesn't take into account, as we're saying, the home value, the increase in value. And a lot of times by this point in the game, it's too late for people to go to the assessor's office and, challenge the values on their home, but they can do that for next year. And I think some of those increases may be in line or out of line, but that is really the driver behind what increases folks are seeing, particularly in neighborhoods like Dayton's Bluffs and North End and other parts of the city, Thomasdale, that were slow to recover from the housing crisis in the late 2000s, 10, 11, 12, and are now catching up to the rest of the city. And so we see some of those bigger increases in neighborhoods that have been more challenged. So over time, and then now the home values are increasing as the demand goes up in those areas. And so you'll see an increase that's larger than what an average home looks like, but it's really because the property value has increased. And it's a tough distinction to make, but I think when folks are looking at their property tax statement, the first thing to look at is, did my value increase? And kind of gauge things from at that point, and also know that there is a process in place at Ramsey County to challenge assessment values if you think they're inaccurate. This is a public service announcement. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. Moving on to another important context setting slide about the property tax. That The city's share of the tax bill is about $1,028 on a bill that's about in total $3,429. So that's about 30% of the bill that a typical homeowner will see. The other parts of the bill are comprised of tax levies by the St. Paul Public Schools, which is at about 35% of the total, Ramsey County, which is at about 27% of the total, and then other smaller taxing jurisdictions at about 8% of the total. I also want to refer folks for additional information on the 2022 budget to the city's website. We have the current and prior year budget documents. We have an open budget portal for interactive exploration of the budget and a property tax estimator, which displays the impact of property taxes and budget changes. And that concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you and the work that you put into this. I know that you've been working on it since the moment you stepped in the door. And so we hope to have this wrapped up for you in only 7 days. So thank you very much for this re-summary of where we started out. And I think we're moving in the right direction where we're going to be wrapping things up. So thank you so much. We're going to shift gears over to our Chief Budget Officer, Holly Houston, just with, I think, a couple comments and perhaps a summary about our survey.
Council President Brendmoen, thank you. Good evening, council members. My camera is not working, so I apologize for not being able to be visible tonight. So thank you for giving me a little bit of time here. As Council President mentioned, we have 1 week until the vote on the budget will be. So next week we're planning to vote on the budget at the 10 o'clock time slot next week. I am planning to give an overview of any adaptations that the council has decided to make to the budget. And so we will be reviewing that information at 10 a.m. and then the vote at 3:30. And during my presentation at 10 a.m., I'm consolidating the survey results that we had, but I will give a quick, brief preview here. And let me just pull up. All right. So just to summarize this year, each year it's the council members' goal and my goal, to improve our engagement activities with the community and make sure that we're hearing from them about the budget process. And so this year we had our budget survey. It was the second year, and response increased by like 100%. So last year we had 180 responses, and this year we had 304, and a lot of good information that I am sifting through now to share with all of you. And I've also given you a copy of the text and attached it to the agenda this evening if people want to look at that information. And then we had a public hearing in the wild at the Como Pavilion October 13th, where we also heard from community members as well as some employees. And then we've had a total of 12 budget committee meetings this year. And then tonight we're having our final public hearing. So this is really hard to read, but the graphic is helpful, and it is attached to the agenda. But this is some of the budget survey questions we asked had some selection options, so it created a nice visual chart. And so this question is, how important do you think the following programs or services are to the community? And so the top 3, which represent the largest red portion, were fire and medical services, public safety, and gun violence. And so that's just one point of information. And then we also asked, as you think about the 2022 budget, how would you prioritize funding for the programs or services listed in question 1? And so it talked about adding more funding, maintaining the current funding level, or reducing funding levels. And so the prioritized funding that popped out, the top 3 were gun violence, public safety, and mental health supports. Fine. And then we also asked, which of the following options do you prefer to balance the budget? And so increase in efficiencies and processes was number 1 there in the purple. And then we also asked about the American Rescue Plan funding and what their priorities are. And neighborhood safety, housing, and infrastructure rose to the top. We heard a lot of good comments and feedback, and so I will be sharing more on that next week. And that is all I have this evening. Is there any questions?
Thank you for summarizing that. And I think it's just appropriate to do as part of our truth and taxation hearing, just to hear where, folks all, especially, in our modern times, people find different ways to engage and participate. And I think the survey is one great way to get people's perspective, in addition to the emails we've received and the phone calls. And as I was mentioning earlier, meetings and at these hearings. So I think appropriate time to hear that summary. I appreciate the graphics, and I know that we'll go into a little deeper when it comes time to pass the budget next week. Mr. Tao has a hand up.
Thank you, Council President. Holly, thank you for the presentation. I'm just curious at the data. Do we know where most of the response are coming from? And so that we can do a better job of outreach to neighborhoods who may who can participate in the survey in future budget.
Councilmember Tao, that information was an optional request, and so I will make sure I tease that information out for the final results and share that with you next Wednesday morning.
I appreciate that question. We know everything from public meetings to voter turnout. We see more participation in certain neighborhoods, and so I think it's good to understand that how it reflects in the survey as well. So thanks for that question. Ms. Snaker.
Thanks, Council President. I just want to thank people for taking time to respond. That's a really remarkable increase over last year, and people have had a lot going on over the past year that could possibly have taken precedence over completing a city council budget survey. So, so thank you for the input.
Great. All right. Well, why don't we move on to the hearing portion of the truth and taxation hearing? I know we have a few people. I know we have staff. Our council director, Trudy Maloney, is in the council chambers, and there are people who are here to testify. I think at this point, there's 2 or 3 people who may be testifying for us today. Before we get started, I'll remind people that we have a 2-minute, I almost said 2 hour, that'd be too long, 2-minute limit on speaking time. And unfortunately, that time goes by really fast. But if you don't get everything you wanted to say out, that is okay. You can just call and leave a voicemail, and we'll transcribe it, or send us an email if you didn't get quite done. But for now, we will go with a 2-minute limit. Ms. Moore will let you know when you have 30 seconds to go. If you could start up by just introducing yourself, use your name, your pronouns if you'd like, and also the neighborhood in which you live. So why don't we get started? This is very unusual, so thank you for being down in council chambers and working with us on this very odd truth and taxation hearing. We're really grateful to have you here today.
Okay, thanks. My name is Gay Sorensen. I live in Ward 7, and I'm a leader with Isaiah. St. Paul needs to keep moving toward being a place that helps people thrive, no matter their income or whether they're Black, brown, or white. This requires having an orientation to using our budget to create the conditions for this to be true, and rejecting a scarcity mindset that holds us back from creatively tackling the challenges we face and building the future we know is possible. I want to support 2 relevant areas in the proposed budget: affordable housing and public safety. First, affordable housing has been a huge problem for decades and needs to be approached from all angles. Our leaders have been working with the city on building innovative services that support those who have challenges with housing costs, knowing about government assistance programs, and understanding how to apply for them. We support the mayor's budget item that allows for $500 cash assistance for housing-related expenses and helps low-income homeowners navigate programs like property tax refunds and existing city services for low-income people. Second, thank you for supporting the use of federal American Rescue money to support housing strategies. We all know that much help is needed to connect homeless people with services, and much support is needed for affordable housing. Our communities are safer and healthier when everyone has stable housing.
30 seconds remaining.
Third, I and Isaiah support investment in an Office of Neighborhood Safety to coordinate violence prevention strategies and alternative responses to policing. This is a key priority for us as we continue to push for community-driven approaches to address crime that tackles its root causes in a proactive and holistic manner. Then we can use police in a more focused and effective way. Thank you for fully funding this department. Thanks.
Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you, Gay.
All right, if there's another person in the council chambers who'd like to testify, please step on up. Welcome.
Oh. Hello?
Hi, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, that's good. Hope I don't look as bad as I sound. I'm speaking on behalf, my name is Rick Cohout. I'm speaking on behalf of my daughter, Melissa Cohout, that lives at 467 Goodhue Street. And we got her tax information, and it's, I have to say, I live in Anoka County, and pretty much always have. And I don't understand some of these charges, how they've gone up. Like the Regional Railroad Authority, aren't these the Railroad Authority, yeah, I mean, financial services, what else? Melissa is she's a frontline healthcare provider at she's a dental assistant at the VA healthcare facility. She's had this is not a real high income job, but she makes it with this house. And but unfortunately, she got tested positive for COVID-19, and this whole year she's a COVID long hauler. She's had numerous health problems, and I just don't understand how these, like the Railroad Authority, how I mean, at the bottom it says she's looking at 105% increase in her taxes for next year. I don't know how some of these.
Sir, do you mind if I just quick interrupt you? Did you mention what neighborhood your daughter lives in?
Goodhue. She lives. It says on the property tax description, E.H. Hawks sub to Winslow's ad.
Okay, I was just trying to figure out which one of the council members here represented your daughter.
Okay.
And I believe it's Councilmember Naker. I just wanted to make sure that because it does sound like you have some questions about just overall the property tax statement. And
Correct.
I
Yes.
also know there's staff there that can help walk through some of that, but I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go right back ahead.
But anyway, I don't know how these aren't these places getting some help from the what you referred to earlier, the federal money that's been handed down to the cities, the bigger cities and states and things like this. How can these people, after blue collar frontline Americans, go through this hellish year that they have, and looking forward, it ain't looking much better, that they
30 seconds remaining.
that they're looking at these kind of increases. Like, I mean, I think libraries are great, but I can't see where they can't be cutting. If I left money for anybody, I'd be the public library system, because, you know, they're so accessible with information. It's really a cornerstone of freedom in our country. But I just think that, you know, I don't know how you can double some of this stuff. And in the assessment of the house, 2021, it was assessed at 116, and the house was flipped. She bought the house in 2020, July of 2020, and now it's valued at 199.5. I just don't see, this is a very, this value is very subjective to the current market. If they, you know, but again, blue collar Americans, this is like a brick in the head. Is there any way?
Mr. Kohat, I want to thank you for your testimony, and we've gone significantly over the 2 minutes. I do want to say just a couple quick things. This
Sure.
is a public hearing, and we really are not kind of going back and forth on these things, but I think just looking at my colleagues, I think I can speak on all of our behalf to thank your daughter for her work in COVID. That frontline work is, we are indebted to her for what she's done. And I just want her to hear that we're very grateful to her.
Well,
I will say
Yeah.
on your tax bill, there are staff folks in the room that can probably help walk through some of those pieces with you. It sounds like you are in a situation, as I mentioned earlier, where if the property value increased by $80,000, the property taxes are going to increase to match that. And so some of those things they're measuring that if the house was flipped and there was improvements, then you're going to see increases in that tax bill. So I would encourage you to visit with some of there's professional staff there that might be able to answer some of those questions, and also would encourage you and Melissa to reach out to Councilmember Naker, your council member, for further assistance on this matter, because I think that Rebecca,
Okay.
she just waved,
Yep.
to follow up and give you some ample time to walk through that, because it sounds like you have quite a few questions, and since this is a hearing, it's more like say your piece and then we go to the next one. And I'd really want to make sure that you get your questions answered, because I think you have very legitimate questions and maybe some paths and opportunities for some help for your daughter.
All right. Thank you for your time. Appreciate you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yep.
And we can't see the chamber, so if there's more folks in there, just step right up.
Honorable Member Ms. Prince. My name is Grant Ward, and I'm over in Indian Mounds Park. And I've got just a couple comments. My taxes are going up 22.3%. My wages aren't going up 22.3%. I'm on a fixed income now, and you guys are dreaming. I don't know why you guys think that I need to pay another 22.3% taxes. The one thing that is driving me nuts is the, where is it? Other special taxing districts. What the heck is that? I have no idea. That went up 41%. I think that we have to realize that people here in Minnesota, in St. Paul, you're driving us out of here by taxing us to death. I want to get out of St. Paul so bad. It's making me sick. And I've been paying taxes here. I've been living here in St. Paul my whole life, and I'm sick and tired of it. You guys, the liberal people, are taxing us to death. That's the end of my comments. Thanks a lot, Jane. Appreciate your help.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you, Grant.
And if there's other folks that are found their way to the council chambers tonight, please step up to the microphone. We can't see, so does that cover it? Yep.
Yep, that's it. They're all gone.
Okay. See, now you're working for us. That's great. All right. Thank you so much, folks. So we're going to switch over just to make sure that there's no one that called in. I know that there's somebody that was going to call in. It came in person. So just making sure, looking to staff. Is there anyone on the phone? Unmute when you answer.
Hello. Hi, this is Marvelyn. No, we do not currently have anyone on the phone.
Okay, thank you, Marvelyn. We appreciate your being here and operating the phones for us tonight. Nevertheless, this is a very unusual truth in taxation hearing.
Definitely.
All right. Well, there's no one else to testify. If there's no other business to come before us, then we will adjourn the Truth and Taxation hearing. Thank you, folks.
So to start small, focus on something that you see in your trash the most. So for example, I mean, this is a very large, or